Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Kim.com has made a statement as of late, this coming from Ian Binns here on Twitter. He says the US is beyond bankrupt. The digital entrepreneur predicts a controlled demolition of the global markets. So this comment spans a lot of different factors that I want to touch on today. On June the 5th, which was just yesterday, the entrepreneur and activist known as Kim.com published a post on Twitter. That said, it may be the most important thread he ever makes concerning a major global collapse. In the thread, .com specifically highlights the American economy, and he claims the US is beyond bankrupt. .com also talked about the Great Reset and also talked about this that I would rather not say on this show, and how that aims to shift into a new dystopian future where the elites are the masters of the slaves without the cosmetics of democracy. So a lot to unpack here, and unfortunately I do not have the thread, but I think maybe this could be it. No, this is just Kim.com's. This is his profile, but if you go to his profile, the thread was posted right here. Anyway, I'll link to the thread in the video if you guys are interested. So clearly he's not very optimistic. The United States did not have a surplus or a balanced budget since 2001, .com wrote. In the last 50 years, the U.S. only had 4 years of profit. In fact, all the profit that the U.S. had would not be enough to pay for 6 months of the current yearly deficit. So how did the U.S. pay for things? U.S. spending and debt have spiraled out of control, and the government can only raise the money it needs by printing it. While sharing an image of the Fed's M1 money supply chart, he continued, "That causes inflation. It's like taxing you extra because you pay more for the things you need, and all your assets decline in value." So that's just to start things off. .com stressed that the reason the U.S. has been able to get away with being bankrupt for so long is because the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency. So this is where it gets important, guys. Nations everywhere hold USD as a secure asset, .com said. So when the U.S. government prints trillions, it's robbing Americans and the entire world. The biggest theft in history. He further added that the problem is, it has been going on for decades, and in the end, it will lead to mass poverty and a new system of control. .com continued to prove that this just isn't doom and gloom talk by doing the math tied to America's unfunded liabilities and the total value of the country's assets. .com said that even if the U.S. could sell all of its assets at current market rates, it would still be broke. The U.S. is beyond bankrupt. This patient is already dead. This patient is now a zombie, he opined, after explaining how broke he believes the country is today. .com wrote about why he thinks reality won't change and a collapse is inevitable and coming. Following the statement, .com spoke about the Great Reset, as we have talked about a lot on this channel. The powers that be ultimately want to collapse the system and create a new financial system that benefits them. This is why they're so against Bitcoin, and for those of you guys who may not know, Kim.com is a proponent of Bitcoin. The silver lining is that they want to implement RippleNet and utilize XRP to move all the money. So, for us XRP hodlers, it's not so bad, but we still have to pay attention. We still have to make sure that we safeguard ourselves. And, that doesn't mean just hold XRP. That means, diversify. I personally hold precious metals, gold, silver, as an example, and assets. Also, if you guys buy hard assets, that is also something utilized by a lot of people to safeguard themselves during a financial emergency. So there's the whole Great Reset theory, which we know about. Kim.com obviously also knows about, warning us about. So I will link his tweet thread again in the description of this video for you guys because it does go into a lot of detail here, and I think it is a good read considering what is happening today in the US and how that is really going to extend to the rest of the world. Now, when we talk about crypto policy, this ties into it very closely. Vitalik Buterin just tweeted this out. Ultimately, I agree with this. That is, I oppose banning proof of work. The government picking and choosing which specific applications are an okay use of electricity is not a bad idea. Better to just implement carbon pricing and use some of the revenues to compensate low-income users. So an interesting perspective here. No government has the right to tell you what software to run. This is retweeted out by Vitalik Buterin by Bruce Fenton, who I did a video about a couple months ago or about a month ago. I will link it up here in the top right-hand corner if you guys didn't catch that. Of course, the absence of perfect compensation of externalities, i.e. the status quo today, we still have moral responsibilities. So Vitalik just tweeted this out a couple of days ago. John Deaton getting on his case. Vitalik Buterin. You are without question one of the most prominent and influential leaders in the crypto industry. I think it's great that you don't support a ban on proof of work. It would also be great if you spoke out against what the SEC is doing as it relates to XRP. Now, I'm going to stop you there, John, just for a second. I don't think he's going to do that because there's a silent war here, and I think we all get that, and I do appreciate your efforts, but there's so much to unpack, and I think this goes deeper than most of us see on the surface, and maybe even Congress sees on the surface. I know John Deaton knows what's going on here, so I'm not saying that he doesn't. He's going to continue, and I know what he's doing here. He continues, you are certainly aware that the SEC lawyers have not limited the allegations to only include how and when Ripple sells XRP. The SEC claims all XRP, including XRP traded in the secondary market, independent of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, are all securities. So then he finishes this off by saying SEC lawyers are attacking the token itself. It is the single most dangerous argument the SEC could make. XRP hodlers with no connection to Ripple are being punished. Many of us also hold Ethereum and Bitcoin. As a leader, I'd appreciate for you to decry the SEC's actions. So a very, very bold and great statement here from John Deaton, I gotta say, calling Vitalik Buterin out and, basically just pointing it out. Vitalik, if you're so concerned about where this market is going, about where crypto regs are going to take cryptocurrencies in the future, you would also be not just talking about the banning of proof of work, but you would also be focused on what the SEC is doing with Ripple and XRP in court. And yet, there's crickets all across the map from Bitcoin maximalists, and everybody else basically not wanting to touch the Ripple SEC case with a 10-foot pole. All things that make you go, right? So yeah, John Deaton obviously knows what he's doing here, and I salute you, fine sir, for doing this. So what else do we have here? This coming from Boz here on Twitter. June 19th, 2018, BK Brian Kelly commented on what the Hinman Ethereum free pass speech means for the industry. Then you fast forward to right after the lawsuit. How does CNBC and Brian Kelly know the fate of XRP is in the courts and not going to be addressed by the SEC? What do they know and who told them? So this is an interesting video, guys. Again, this came out, I believe, shortly after the Ripple SEC lawsuit was announced. Listen to this clip.
What does that mean for like an XRP? An XRP, from the way I understand it, it's a technology solution that you don't necessarily need to use the coin to transact on the platform. So what happens to an XRP? How does a Ripple...
So XRP, I think, is still in limbo here. And there is a case on XRP on whether or not it's going to be a security. And I think we're going to have to wait for that.
Case.
Yeah, a lawsuit. I'm sorry. A lawsuit on whether or not XRP is a security. I think for that particular coin, we're going to have to wait on it because there's a relationship between Ripple the coin and Ripple the company. We can argue about how close that is, but that's the sticking point.
What does that mean?
That's the sticking point, right? Okay. I don't buy it. But he seemed very quick to jump at that answer there. And you notice, I don't remember her name, but you notice how she said, clarifying that there's a case for this, not meaning that there's a positive case for this, but there's actually a lawsuit, a court case surrounding this. So really trying to divert any kind of positive attention to XRP and really stating, no, this is what's happening. It's going to be decided in court, and there's going to be, they got to differentiate between Ripple, the company, and XRP, the token, and it's going to take time, and all this stuff to assert that XRP is very, very different than other cryptocurrencies. And this was at the beginning. This wasn't even now. This wasn't even 2022. So, an interesting clip there, courtesy of Boz, and I believe it was originally retweeted out by Digital Asset Buy. Another one here, though, guys, John Deaton also mentioning this, retweeting out Digital Asset Buy's tweet, great find DAI, 3 things. Redfern received a draft. Number 2, he's one of the officials who resigned and left the SEC after supporting the lawsuit, i.e., during that time of the mass exodus that Grunfest mentioned in his letter to the SEC. And number 3, we know as of June 7th, 2018, Redfern knew Ethereum was getting a free pass.
The chairman declined to say whether Ether or Ripple were actual securities, but is it fair to say that this is likely ultimately going to be litigated in the courts?
It's unclear to me whether or not that's going to be litigated, and I don't want to speak about any specific products, and I do believe that there will be statements on at least one of those products forthcoming in the future about, providing some more guidance on that.
providing some more guidance on that. Sorry, I cut that off a little early. So some interesting points here brought up by John Deaton. Also, just going back really quickly to Brian Kelly. Recall when BK on CNBC showed retail investors how to buy XRP, and many did, but you won't report on how almost 68,000 of those holders sued and are fighting the SEC's outlandish claims. So I don't know if you guys remember this. This happened in 2018, and I know for a fact there is a video clip of this, and YouTube flagged it. Now, I've showed other clips from the same news outlet, and YouTube did not decide to flag those clips, but for whatever reason, they decided to flag this clip, and I think they have to submit paperwork to provide information that this is their original clip, and then YouTube can then flag videos of other people who are posting it. Yet, news outlets, they produce so much video content that they're not going to do that for every single clip that they put out. So just to give you guys some context on that, but back to John Deaton. Back in 2018 at the market top, when XRP was trading at, trading at $2.57, CNBC on national television was giving a crypto class how to buy Ripple. And then when the price was down to 71 cents, they were posting how to sell Ripple. So putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I got to thank John Deaton for reminding me about that. Watching this clip, we're seeing that the media likely has also been given a directive as to what cryptos to talk about in what particular light and what cryptos not to talk about. And so now we're seeing, producers like Eleanor Turret and journalists like Charles Gasparino go on Fox Business and really talk about this case. We really got to hand it to Fox Business for, shining some light on this story and really kind of giving it the exposure that clearly a lot of these other news outlets are deciding to ignore at this moment in time. And so could all this be playing just a small part in the bigger picture that is cryptocurrency legislation in the United States? I'm going to go over this tweet thread, guys. It is a bit lengthy. Small Cap Scientist here posted this. One of the largest pieces of crypto legislation will be introduced this Tuesday. So that is also coincidence, or maybe not so coincidental, June the 7th. It includes definitions of which coins are commodities, coins considered securities, stablecoin, CBDC framework, and NFT direction. So let's dive into why you should be paying attention. Senator Cynthia Lummis from Wyoming is introducing legislation on Tuesday to integrate cryptos into the financial system. Sounds bullish, right? Well, recently, Heritage Foundation hosted a panel with everyone who worked on or influenced the legislation. The biggest issue with regulation currently in the US, leaders don't understand crypto. This video with 6,000 views was the best time investment of my week. And so, guys, he posts that video here, retweeted out by BitTown here on Twitter. It was a wide-ranging discussion featuring Ted Cruz, Michael Saylor, Caitlin Long, Kevin Roberts, and Prof. Stonge, who I don't know, Peter St. Onge here, and covered many topics beyond legislation. It's about an hour and 10 minutes long. I will link this in the description if you guys want to watch it. I personally have not watched it myself, but I think I'm going to set aside some time to do that today. It hits home nearly all of the largest outstanding questions across the industry. The issue is every person on this panel heavily favors Bitcoin. It's legislation being written and introduced by a group of Bitcoin maximalists, horrendous for other L1s. And so he's just also retweeting out supporting information just to give you guys some context to this. So let's dive into the panel. Well, they choose everyone's favorite DGen as the earliest set of eyes to help with direction. Michael, there is no second best sailor. Need I say more? We also have Ted Cruz of Texas, a quick history lesson. When China banned Bitcoin mining, Texas welcomed the miners with open arms. Electricity is cheap due to operating on a separate power grid from the rest of the nation. Miners flocked into the area over the past 2 years. Cruz now has massive crypto donors that operate a proof-of-work network in the state. Keeping Bitcoin strong and alts weak directly benefits Texas and some of his largest new donors. He states he owns Bitcoin and everything else is outside his risk profile. Moving on to Caitlin Long. She's a blockchain consultant from Wyoming. Caitlin is a 22-year Wall Street vet and now the CEO of Custodia Bank. She is hoping to work with the Fed to create a Custodia over-collateralized stablecoin. Slowing DeFi momentum is in her best interest. Then we have Senator Lummis, who has her own incentives to pump Bitcoin instead of any other L1s or altcoins. At one point in the video, she discusses altcoin, she states, burning it all down. Bitcoin will be the phoenix that rises. So Small Cap Scientist here just stating a few people in the space that are part of this bill. I do want to let you guys know, though, and I don't think it's all doom and gloom necessarily, just with regards to Caitlin Long. When the crypto company Ripple registered its entity in Wyoming, guys, this news broke back in early 2021. Caitlin Long did go on the record and say, "Welcome to Wyoming, Ripple. More crypto companies are realizing Wyoming is a better domicile than Delaware due to our crypto-friendly laws. People often ask us how many companies have relocated to Wyoming. We don't know. We don't keep lists and we like it that way." And she hashtags XRP and congratulates Ripple here on their move. So I don't necessarily, I mean, she could just be being diplomatic, but I don't see Caitlin Long as being all that bad. I don't think she's a Bitcoin maximalist by any stretch. The moral of the story here is that anyone outside of Bitcoin holders is in big trouble in the coming weeks. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The first thing they call out as being decided by the legislation is commodities versus securities. Ethereum and L1s will fall under the blanket of securities. If you'd like to get a head start, the block was able to obtain a copy of Loomis's legislation prior to this week's final copy. By the outline definition below, nearly every cryptocurrency, including Ethereum, are securities. And again, guys, I will link this tweet thread in the description. It is fairly lengthy. I've combed through the bill and haven't had time to cover all 70 plus pages. This copy is dated March 1st, so plenty of changes could have been made. There is a bullish content here that will help progress the space surrounding stablecoin regulation and the banning of CBDCs. Charts are backed up here as evidence, so just demonstrating this with some Bitcoin charts, which I'm just going to skim over. Not too interested in looking at the Bitcoin price at this moment. Charts seem to agree, though, with the thesis that Ethereum and other L1s will be classified as securities. Buckle up if you hold anything but Bitcoin or stablecoins. This has some other very interesting implication for centralized exchanges or the centralized exchange landscape. It could also be the reason behind some of the massive headlines that have dropped lately for some of the top exchanges. So pay attention, guys. Will they be forced to meet the regulations of all broker deals? I found it extremely odd that Coinbase went from flaunting its stack of cash to rescinding job offers in a matter of weeks. So remember that. Coinbase recently just offered a bunch of jobs. And, I profiled one guy's tweet on my channel where he said he put off his PhD to take a job at Coinbase. And then Coinbase said, no, we are rescinding that offer. We don't need you anymore. And he was gutted. I mean, his visa, he couldn't get his visa otherwise. They could be getting forced to make a heavy pivot for their business in the coming months to meet regulations. So this is what Small Cap Scientist is assuming here. Things are happening behind the scenes, and we're seeing it manifest in the actions of some of these exchanges. FTX also making headlines for being willing to spend $1 billion on the upcoming election, sending a message to both parties as they are working on this legislation possibly. He questions. The timing aligns, and he isn't spending $1 billion for his personal political benefits. This is Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX. It'll be interesting to see which centralized exchanges or leaders step up to push back on legislation. Gemini and Coinbase, and most likely the others, already have issues regarding the SEC. Who is going to step up and poke the bear? It's going to be needed and most likely worth it. Another hidden narrative that we're not hearing too much about is the Grayscale GBTC spot ETF application response is due back from the SEC on July the 7th. That's previously been denied, spot ETF, due to things like stablecoin FUD that are cleared up in this bill. I think it's highly unlikely to be approved until 2023, but if you are a hopeless bull looking for a path to $100,000, Bitcoin being the only commodity and spot ETF approval is it. And then just talking a little bit more about Grayscale. Also, this in Canada, a fact I found interesting in my research is that there have been massive inflows to the Canadian spot Bitcoin over the past few weeks. In my opinion, we are in a shaky spot in the market, and I'll be keeping my funds on the sidelines until we have more clarity on the finalized legislation. I'd assume, based on all the info here, Ethereum, guys, and listen to this very closely, Ethereum and other alts will see their final shakeout in the next month or two. If you'd like to hear further discussion on this topic, you guys can follow some of these people, and they'll be joining him on a podcast, episode 2. And again, guys, I will link this in the description of the video. So my advice to you on how to play this, I don't have any because none of this is financial advice, of course. Do your own research and correct anything I have wrong. I'm not a macro expert, but you do bring up some very, very good points. I got to thank @SmallCapScientist here on Twitter for posting that. So look at who's spearheading this, guys. Will alts be decimated? Will this be the time where all the crap coins will disappear? And I mean, quite frankly, I think in a perfect world, these Bitcoin maxis would want only Bitcoin to survive. But we know that's just not going to be the case. There are going to be coins that solve problems, that have utility, and even Caitlin Long has welcomed Ripple to Wyoming. Also, coincidentally enough, June 7th, which is tomorrow, is going to be an important date for the Ripple SEC lawsuit as well. I think we're going to get some more information on that. And the crypto legislation also going to be introduced tomorrow, June the 7th. So tomorrow is going to be a very, very interesting day to see where cryptocurrency rules are going to be going in the future. That's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.